Why do we cringe at our old selves? Somewhere on your phone right now, there is probably a photo that could ruin your mood in under 3 seconds. Maybe it's a haircut you were absolutely convinced looked amazing. Maybe it's an outfit that made you feel like the coolest person alive. Maybe it's a Facebook status from 2011 that reads like it was written by someone experiencing a medical emergency. Whatever it is, you've had the same reaction before. You find it, you look at it, and your entire body immediately tries to leave the room. You squint, you groan, you physically recoil from your own existence. Some people even throw their phone across the bed, like they've accidentally opened classified government documents. It's one of the strangest experiences humans have. You aren't embarrassed by a stranger. You aren't embarrassed by a celebrity. You aren't embarrassed by some random person on the internet. You're embarrassed by yourself. So why does this happen? Why does your own past feel so uncomfortable? The obvious answer is that you made mistakes. And that's true, but it doesn't explain why those mistakes still have the power to make you cringe years later. To understand what's really happening, we need to talk about something your brain does constantly. Your brain compares versions of you. Not other people. You, the person you are today, is constantly measuring itself against the person you used to be. Most of the time, this happens quietly. You compare your knowledge, your confidence, your appearance, your decisions, your maturity. Without realizing it, you're running an ongoing competition against previous versions of yourself. And usually, the current version believes it's winning. That's why old photos hurt so much. When you look at a picture from 10 years ago, you're not just seeing a photograph, you're seeing evidence. Evidence that you once thought differently, dressed differently, acted differently, believed different things. And sometimes that realization hits hard, especially when your past self seemed extremely confident about something that now looks ridiculous. Think about how often people say things like, "I can't believe I wore that. I can't believe I posted that. I can't believe I thought that was a good idea." The embarrassment isn't coming from the photo, it's coming from the gap between who you were and who you are now. But here's where things get strange. Your brain isn't actually judging your past self fairly, because your past self didn't have access to your current knowledge. The version of you from 10 years ago didn't know what you know now. That person hadn't made the mistakes you've made, hadn't learned the lessons you've learned, hadn't survived the experiences you've survived. Yet your brain judges them anyway. Imagine criticizing a 5th grader for not knowing calculus. That's basically what your brain does every time you cringe at an old version of yourself. It compares someone operating with old information to someone operating with new information, and then acts shocked when they get different results. But there's another reason old memories feel so painful. Your brain is obsessed with social acceptance. For most of human history, fitting into the group mattered. Being accepted increased your chances of survival. Being rejected could be dangerous. As a result, humans evolved to pay extraordinary attention to social mistakes. Embarrassment became a warning system. A way for the brain to say, "Let's not do that again." The problem is that the warning system never got updated. Your brain still reacts to social mistakes as if they're happening right now. It doesn't care that the awkward conversation happened 8 years ago. It doesn't care that nobody else remembers it. It just sees a mistake and starts flashing warning lights. Which leads to one of the funniest facts about being human. The people you're worried about probably don't remember any of it. Think about your own life. How much time do you spend replaying somebody else's embarrassing moments? Probably very little. You're too busy replaying your own, and everyone else is doing the exact same thing. Every person you know is starring in a movie where they're the main character. Meanwhile, you're starring in a movie where you're the main character. Nobody is spending nearly as much time thinking about your mistakes as you think they are. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. Humans tend to dramatically overestimate how much attention other people pay to them. We imagine ourselves standing under a giant spotlight. In reality, everyone else is standing under their own spotlight, having the exact same experience. But perhaps the strangest thing about cringe is that it's actually a good sign. Most people think cringe means something is wrong. In many cases, it means the opposite. If you look back at your old self and see absolutely nothing you'd change, that's not necessarily growth. Growth means changing, learning, evolving, updating your beliefs, becoming a different person. And whenever that happens, the older version starts looking a little strange. The reason your old self feels embarrassing is because you're no longer that person. The reason the old posts make you cringe is because you've outgrown them. The reason the old decisions seem ridiculous is because you've gained information that didn't exist back then. In a weird way, cringe is evidence. Evidence that your software has been updated. Evidence that you've learned something. Evidence that time actually did its job. So the next time your brain decides to remind you about an awkward conversation from 2014, a terrible haircut from 2012, or a social media post that should probably qualify as a crime scene, try to remember what's really happening. You're not being haunted by your past. You're being confronted by proof that you've changed. And while that may feel uncomfortable, it's a lot better than the alternative. Because the only people who never cringe at their old selves are the people who never grew beyond them.